Welcome, everyone. This is part 4 in our series on presenting your research. We're going to be talking about the possibly thrilling and possibly nerve-wracking process of giving a conference talk in our field. Let's start with the basic structure of a talk. This is pretty easy. It's probably going to mirror the structure of papers in our field, but the thing to keep in mind is that the talk narrative has to be dramatically simpler. The beginning should start just like a paper does and just like an abstract does. You need to answer questions that involve context. What problem are you solving? Why is the problem important? What's been tried before and why wasn't it a full solution? These things will contextualize your results and set your audience up to be prepared for the contribution that you're about to offer. That will happen in the middle. You'll give concrete details about what data you used and then crucially what approach you took and what its details are, up to the level of detail you can supply in a talk like this, and also information about your metrics. How do you evaluate success? These concrete details will constitute your proposal, and they're really crucial. And then in the final part of the talk, you'll offer results in the form of tables and graphs and so forth, and you might review some aspects of the analysis from your paper, what worked and what didn't, what work still needs to be done, and things like that. And then crucially, at the very end, you should be sure to articulate what you achieved in the work and why it's significant. The idea is to leave the audience with information that will compel them to take the time and energy to read your actual paper for the full details on your contribution. And then that way, the talk will serve as an effective advertisement for the underlying project. Now, you can read lots of advice on the internet about how to give effective talks in various contexts. And I would encourage you to seek it out because some of it might really align with your style. You should keep in mind, though, that styles differ and contexts differ. And so this will be a process of figuring out what advice is really suitable for you. The one thing that I can say with confidence is that Patrick Blackburn's fundamental insight will apply no matter what the context and what the style. Patrick Blackburn asks, where do good talks come from? And his answer is honesty. He says a good talk should never stray far from simple, honest communication. And if you abide by that, and you're introspective about where you've achieved open, honest communication and where you fell short in various talks that you give, and you're willing to learn from that process, you will definitely find your style and become an effective communicator about scientific ideas according to what works best for you. A note about PowerPoint. You can find lots of think pieces about how PowerPoint and related slide technologies are inherently kind of evil. I think they can be used to confuse and deceive, but they also have lots of good aspects to them. And it's not an accident that slides are pretty pervasive when giving talks in our field. And it's just a matter, again, of finding your style and thinking about how to use these slides for open, honest communication. In that vein, and again, this is a matter of personal style, I thought I would mention two kind of schools of thought when it comes to slide design, the minimalist and the comparative. So the minimalist would probably just have 2 words on this slide, minimalist and comparative, and the rest would be delivered via a talk track. The idea behind the minimalist approach is slides should be as spare as possible. The audience should spend most of their time listening to you and looking at you. And individual slides don't stay up for very long or get used in more than one way. They're kind of punctuation for your narrative talk track. By contrast, the comparative approach would be you have lots of details on your slides. Slides should be as full as possible without sacrificing clarity. Your talk should make it easy for people to spend time studying your slides. You have to think about how your narrative is going to align with the very detailed slides. And individual slides might stay up for a long time and get used to make multiple comparisons and establish numerous connections. I want to emphasize again that this is really a personal matter. The minimalist view seems right for telling a story. It's often the best mode when time is of the essence and the audience is mainly there to learn about what your paper contains. Whereas the comparative view seems right for teaching, right? It's the closest that the slides can come to full, well-organized chalkboards and things like that, where a lot of information might stay up for a very long time. Fundamentally, though, this is a matter of style. Find the version that works for you for the context you're in. And I'll just say again, as long as you think long and hard about what it will be like to listen to your talk, that is the open communication part, and you adjust accordingly, I'm sure that you'll shine no matter what approach you choose. I really like slides when it comes to using them to guide audience attention and help people follow the narrative of your talk track. One fundamental thing that you can do for that is make heavy use of overlays. Overlays might allow you to fill a slide with information in that comparative mode while still keeping the audience with you as you make individual points. You can also use color systematically on slide to create distinctions and highlight different pieces of information. If you use it consistently, then people will figure out that you're using color for one concept, and that will really help them key into the structure of your ideas. Pick an accessible color palette, and then this can really be your friend when it comes to communicating with an audience. You can also use size to draw attention to things, and boxes and arrows and other devices to help people navigate especially complex information displayed on your slides. This is incredibly useful when you are, for example, displaying a figure of results, to have boxes as overlays on the individual comparisons and results that you want to highlight. Same thing for a model diagram. You could show the whole model diagram and then use boxes to highlight different pieces of information in the diagram as you talk about them in your narrative talk track. And that can be incredibly valuable when it comes to helping people navigate what would otherwise be a very complicated looking slide. Of course, you could offer the information that I just delivered in the more minimalist version. This would be like overlays, color, size, boxes, and arrows, and so forth. For particular styles, that might be exactly the right mode to talk about guiding audience attention. You can probably see that it's not really my style, but it's certainly a valid style that can be very effective. Some more mundane things. Turn off any notifications that might appear on your screen. If you're up in front of an audience of hundreds of people and we see a notification about a friend's email, well, it will certainly be an entertaining thing for your audience to have seen, but it might not be something that you wanted to be part of your talk. Make sure your computer is out of power save mode so that the screen doesn't shut off while you're talking. Projectors can be finicky, and even one time of you losing your screen could cause you to lose the projector and burn through a bunch of the time that you have allotted for your talk, and that could be really sad. Shut down running applications that might tax your computer or otherwise get in your way, again with notifications and things like that. Make sure your desktop is clear of files and notes that you wouldn't want the world to see. You know, in this day and age, your desktop might flash for a second before the slides come up. And for all you know, this talk is going to end up on YouTube for the whole world to see. So think about the privacy aspects of this. If you're using PowerPoint or Keynote or Google Slides or something like that, create a PDF as a backup. If your program failed or the internet failed, you might not have access to your primary version. Having a PDF backup will certainly be helpful. And be prepared for the worst case. What if the projector fails? You might really be glad that you're prepared to give the talk without any slides. Imagine that scenario. The audience will be on your side in the presence of such a failure of technology, and it could be really a chance for you to shine. And the one thing I'll say is that if you're prepared, genuinely prepared to give your talk without slides, the resulting talk will be better because the narrative part of your talk will be so much stronger. Finally, the discussion period, which could be an exciting discussion period or the most dreaded part of this whole process. It's an important part of your presentation, though. It should be a chance for the audience to gain a deeper understanding of your ideas. And when the discussion period actually has that aim, it's really a joy, and it feels like you and your audience are moving forward together. Sometimes other things happen, though. You could get a hostile questioner or a confused questioner or something even more chaotic. Be ready for this and just try to remain on an even keel no matter what happens. When you get questions, after each one, take a pause for a second before answering. This will serve two functions. First, you'll make sure that the person has actually finished asking their question, which I think is socially useful. And second, it will just make you appear more deliberative, which is good. So even if you know exactly what answer you want to give, taking the pause will create a good impression on your audience. Avoid, where possible, saying I have no idea in response to things and leaving it at that. If you truly are floored, you might say I have no idea, but let's think about the following other considerations. There might be cases where you actually just want to say I have no idea and leave it at that, but I think that that should be used very sparingly. Most questions won't make total sense to you. You have to remember that your questioner doesn't know the work as well as you do. They might have lost track of some of the details or gotten distracted for a moment. The question might not completely make sense. You'll feel victorious, though, if you can warp every question you get into one that makes sense and leaves everyone with the impression that the questioner raised an important issue. Again, that's another way that you can create a collective feeling that the discussion was productive and as a group kind of move the ideas forward as part of this discussion period. That's when this is really exciting, and you should do everything you can to strive for such moments, knowing though that things could go really awry, and don't try to internalize those too much either. This is a messy process, but fundamentally, I think it can be quite rewarding in the end.